All right, hey, welcome back to the Rescue Lab. I'm PJ Halloran. I'm here with Logan Ledkins. He's a special ops lieutenant with Longview, Texas, and we are talking about the infamous balloon rescue that happened at 900 feet. Logan, we're going to jump right into it. Take me to that morning and how that incident played out. Let's discuss that.
Yeah, man, jumping right into it. So we work 4896 now. So we were on the back half or coming into our second day of that. So we'd already been on for 24 coming in. So we were waking up. I let the guys sleep in a little bit on that second day. And so it's about 8 a.m. Guys are kind of stirring, got pancakes on the griddle. I'm taking my first sips of coffee for the morning. And I've got a guy that works for the little combination department to our north. And he said, "Hey, we just got a call at Judson for a balloon rescue. A balloon hit a tower." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." So I got up and kind of wiping the sleep out of my eyes and walked towards the office. And about that time, the ring down or the call came, and we got dispatched to that call. Basically, it came in as a balloon had hit a cell tower, I believe is what they were saying. And so I immediately dropped the house. So I knew that we were going to need everybody that I had at the station that day, and it had only put the ladder truck on the call. So we were going to need a few more hands than that. But to be quite honest, like I was seeing reports early on of being in the 100 to 200 foot range. So, that's kind of in our wheelhouse. We do training at that level pretty regularly. So I honestly thought if that's what it was, that we could probably manage that situation with what I had at the house between the 8 guys that I was going to be bringing with me, plus any other, ground people and that kind of thing. So I wasn't too concerned about it at that point. As we started to get en route to the call, we got in the area where I could see the tower that was in question, and unfortunately, it was a tower that we were aware of in the area, but I didn't know that was the one that we were going to head to that morning. So we were aware of a tower in our area. Most everything is a 200-ish foot cell tower. This particular one, we knew was quite a bit taller. I couldn't remember right off my head that morning how tall it was, but I knew it was significantly taller. And we had kind of talked about it for years about, hey, if we get
That
something,
that same tower?
yeah, yeah, because it's the only
Yeah.
one that's significantly taller than everything else in the area. So everybody was kind of aware of it. But so yeah, we turned on to a local street there, and I could get a clear view of it, and I could see something hanging from the top. At that point, I didn't, I assumed it was a balloon, but I was just, is that an antenna or is that something odd? Like we were still far enough, but I could definitely see it at that point.
Did you know at the dispatch moment that there were people in it? Were you like, hey, this is a weather balloon, something trapped up here,
No, so Longview has a ballooning community. So we actually in the summertime they host a hot air balloon race that goes on for about a week. So hot air balloons in our area isn't uncommon. Matter of fact, for years and years, part of the city of Longview logo had a balloon in it. So like balloons aren't uncommon in our area. So I knew exactly it wasn't going to be a weather balloon. I knew it was going to be an occupied balloon. Now I didn't know if it was going to be multiple people, but I knew it would be occupied. So
And so you finally get on scene, and you mentioned this tower isn't alongside the road. I mean, you have a ways to get in to get to this tower.
yeah, so the combination department to our north and a battalion chief and a couple of other units that were originally dispatched to what finally kind of shook out as a above grade rescue had made it on scene before us. We were probably 10 to 15 minutes out from the call. So they beat us there, and they were kind of telling us as we were coming in, like, hey, the ladder truck isn't going to make it here. So we kind of knew we were going to have to hump some gear. They were trying to get some trucks and stuff squared away to maybe haul some of our gear. But by the time we got our foot on the ground, it was just easier to throw our bags on our back and hump it. So we had, I don't know, quarter mile, half mile, something like that. I wasn't too concerned with the trip at the moment. I was looking up the whole way and
Yeah,
thinking fast. So, but yeah,
yeah.
we
And
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, so you grab your initial gear, and what do you go to first for that? What are you grabbing? You're telling your guys to grab for equipment right off the bat.
Yeah, so we carry all of our ropes gear on the ladder truck that I was on. In the very near future, our engine that sits at the house will have a complementary set of gear, but it doesn't at the moment. So I told him I need every piece of rope gear off of this truck to the base of that tower. That was my exact words. And I
Yeah.
grabbed a bag, one of the rope bags, and started walking that way. And, I had a bunch of guys now that were on scene. Several of the volunteer departments from around were kind of close. So we had a lot of hands. But yeah, I need every single thing that's on this truck that looks like a rope or sounds like a rope to be at the base of that tower.
And so you ended up being running the operations for this. Did you have a plan early on, or I mean, obviously, as you show up and you see the complexity and the scale go up, what's going through your mind, and how are you going to solve this problem?
Yeah, so obviously, the scale changes things a little bit, but honestly, we for probably more than a decade, we've implemented a tower rescue day in our rope technician class. So every guy that's gone through over the last at least 10 years, myself included, and that was in 2013. So you do the math. And so we do a tower rescue day, right? So I kind of knew what we were. We have a game plan for that, right? We're gonna do a multi-pitch lower. That's kind of our plan. It's the easiest, most efficient way to go about it. It's the cleanest way. We don't. I don't have a 600-foot rope in the bag, which at the time was kind of what I was thinking it might be, but I don't have that in my bag. We're not tower climbers on a daily basis, so we're looking at probably getting a little trailing line of like 1,200 foot now after this happened. But I don't have any of those.
Absolutely.
I don't have those tools in my kit right now. So the
Yeah,
longest
you will. You definitely will.
yeah, at the time, the longest rope I had was 300 foot, so I knew they weren't coming to the ground on a single rope. So I kind of knew we were going to do a multi-pitch lower. I just didn't know how many pitches it was going to take when it was all said and done. But honestly, as we were getting to the base of the tower, my biggest worry was that balloon was very, very precariously hung. It contacted a tower and somehow hung up there. Like that still doesn't, after seeing tons of pictures, that still doesn't compute with me how it stayed even when it just first hit it, because it hit it and stayed right where it went. It got enough wraps from that balloon fabric that it just stayed right there, which still just by the grace of God, right? And so then I was really concerned with the footprint on the ground, where guys were going to be, because I was very much thinking that that thing was going to come down while we were going to be on our way up. The tower was about 5 by 5 by 5, a triangle. So once they were inside the footprint, I wasn't too concerned about them, because I knew, they might get hit with some falling debris, but they were going to be protected by the tower at that point. But while we were all out on the ground, so yeah, locking out, tagging out the power, that ended up being a really, really high wattage, what I'm told to be the highest allowable wattage tower in the country. It ended up being a radio station tower is what was at the top, and it's transmitting FM at a really high. As I'm learning things, that was one of the things that became a concern. But we got that locked out and tagged out. Automatically, a generator pops on. We had to go kill the generator as well. So a lot of things happening on. And I had, luckily, the IC, the battalion chief that was on scene, was kind of taking care of that piece for me. They had to force entry on all that, get all that taken care of. I was working on the rope plan. And basically, my rope plan was I needed guys up there right now. Like, I need them right now. And I knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew it was going to be a long climb. Once again, I was getting intel in my ear that was like 600 to 700 foot is what I was thinking. So I had 300-foot ropes in my hand. So I was kind of thinking maybe 2 to 3 pitches is what I was originally thinking. So I picked my best rope guy and my most athletic guy. And I was like, hey, y'all get to climbing. We'll get the rest of the gear that you need to you, but take a rope, something to secure it, probably a clutch, and anything else that you think you need, but don't take more than you need, because you're going to be smoked. So
Yeah.
those are the kind of
And
things.
yes, and you briefly we had discussed fitness, and at this level, you're sending guys up what we find out to be is 900 feet. Were you worried about that level of fitness and what it would take to get up there, or you guys train for this all the time and you're
Yeah,
ready to go?
obviously, I've got really fit guys. I'll kind of brag on my guys. We do a workout of the month kind of competition, and my house has won that competition a year for 2 years straight. So we've got a couple of golden kettlebells and that kind of thing in our gym. We work out every single day, and so I wasn't too concerned. I knew I was going to be able to push the guys hard. I knew that they were going to be able to do what they needed to do. I was concerned with the length, because I knew My lead climber, he's a big beefy boy, he's very strong, but he's gotta eat. You gotta feed those guys, right? Like, so
Yeah, you do.
and I knew he hadn't ate. Like, we woke up, like, we shook him out of bed, and so I knew he hadn't eaten, and I knew he wasn't gonna get to eat for quite some time. It was just part of it, we kinda gotta push through and make some things happen when we get called into action like this, and so I was worried about him, and, as time went on through the rescue, we started getting things on scene for them to eat when they got down, but, like, that was just, not part of the thing.
Yeah, no, but it's super important. And I mentioned that when I first saw this on TV, one of the first thoughts that came to my head was, I don't know how many departments across America could even make that climb. Just on the fitness level alone, not even the technical side. Just having that level of fitness adds to your ability to get the job done. That's incredibly important.
100%, man. If you're not working on your fitness every single day, like you got to be doing something, right? And you can't cop out like, well, I'm on duty. Yeah, like maybe not, do the Murph every single tour or something like that. But
Right?
like,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if you're not in there making things happen, I'm a 41-year-old cat that's the lieutenant at this house. Most of my guys are younger than me. I got a few older guys there, and like I'm in a lot better shape because of them. Like I just want to
Yep.
keep up at this point. And so
Yeah.
having those kind of dynamics in a house makes it easy, and sending them pictures on my days off where I'm trying to stay in it and that kind of thing. Like, I mean, that's the fun stuff, right? But yeah, like
Yep. Absolutely.
I watched my lead climber the day before go 6 for 6 at 315 on squats. So I knew all that. That was in the back of my head, but at the time,
Yeah.
like I literally was able to hand him a bottle of water and tell him to hit the bricks. Like
Yeah. No,
it's the best case.
that's super. That's super important. And the fact that you have the confidence in them to get that done, adds. I think maybe it takes a little bit of stress off of you, but you got guys climbing the tower. How is your plan as operations evolving as they make their way up and start to report back?
Yeah, so really cool thing. We had a battalion chief that made a really cool call, literally right off the bat, and he got dispatched to get him the phone number to one of the victims who had made a phone call. So he handed that phone off to our on-duty safety officer, and the safety officer literally talked to her the entire time while we were making the ascent. So what ended up being 70 minutes of climb time, he was able to talk to her and kind of keep her on the phone, which was a blessing and a curse all at the same time because he had to be real with her. And when he made first contact with her, he's like, "Hey, we're here, we're coming for you, but it's going to take us a minute. Like we're not coming in a helicopter. We're climbing this thing, and this is how we're coming, and it's going to take at least an hour." And the victim famously kind of said, well, we're not going to make it then, because she was in that kind of state of mind. They were moving 10 foot to each side. They knew that they were in a really precarious situation. So, yeah, but stayed on the phone with her, talked her through it, said, the guy that told me, he's like, man, I don't talk to my wife that long, and had a conversation where
Yeah.
they covered everything from A to Z, and so,
Yeah. No, it's important. It's
yeah,
very important.
but kind of kept her calm, and we were able to do that. So as the plan was going on, again, my main thing was to get a couple of guys up the tower and try to get up there and make contact with them and get them clipped in some way, somehow. As that was going on, I also started stacking guys on the tower. We have another special operations house on the other side of town. Right as I was kind of getting on my feet on the ground and figured out that this was not a 100-foot tall cell phone tower, I had them get ringed out and headed in our direction. We were going to need their gear and their people. These kind of calls, I say this all the time to my guys, is like what we run out of is skilled players, and I don't mean that in a negative way in any kind of form or fashion. We had some quote unquote ordinary ops guys on the ground that did fantastic things for us that day, but I need those skilled players to be on the tower and do the things, So
No, absolutely.
also, we have a competition ropes team that travels around and does cool things in a really meticulous way. Those really ultra rope guys. I'm a rope
Yeah.
guy, but I'm not that. And so
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
go
That's
out
a different level.
100%. So our special operations chief was out of town. He got the phone call that this was going down, and he just put the all call on a group me that they have. And so most of those guys ended up filtering in and making the scene, which was a huge blessing because they're the guys, right? We were all rope guys, and I had total confidence in my guys. It would have probably just taken a whole lot longer. We would have ended up having to down climb and change some things, and it would have just taken longer. But having those guys at my disposal really, really sped things up.
That's important. And so your lead climber. You get up there, he makes contact, and he start to assess the situation. What's the mind frame of the victim at that point when they first connect?
Yeah,
Now that I know they've been on the phone and they've been talking, but now she sees him here.
yeah. Matter of fact, my driver, he'll never do an interview. That's just not his thing. But he's like, he sees a man standing there, and he's holding a strap that he had managed to flip over the edge of the tower, and it was kind of stabilizing the balloon, which was probably helping quite a bit. But he asked if he's okay, and he's like, "Yeah, we're okay." And he's like, "We're?" And at about that time, the lady raises her hand up over the edge of the basket. She's in the fetal position in the bottom of the basket. So I'm sure the radio traffic got sent over that there was 2 victims, because that we knew that from the ground at that point. But somehow that hadn't computed with him. So he was like, "We got 2 victims, awesome." And so
Yeah,
he was able to flip the pilot a carabiner on a rope, and they kind of just quickly did a triple wrap around and clipped it back into itself. I'll be honest, like, had that ended up having to come into play, I really think it probably would have dumped them out of the basket, because it was just on one side. If they took a fall, like, it probably wouldn't have been good, right? They weren't tethered in at all. But luckily that didn't go that way. And so, yeah, they got there. 2 of those rope comp guys were the first 2 that were on scene, were the guys that have kind of led our program, and they kind of came from a climbing community before they were in the fire service. They've been teaching this class since before I was in the fire service. They taught every dude that was on the tower, and those cats come walking up. It was a good feeling to see those guys come walking up.
yeah.
And they hit the tower. I got a knife hand from one of the guys, like, "Hey, did those guys got water?" And I'm like, I handed him a bottle of water. That's what I had. He walked
The
up with
knife hand, I love it.
yeah, he walked up with all his rope gear on, basically with a camel pack, and I'm like, I didn't have a camel pack to hand him. I'm glad you brought one, but I handed him a bottle of water. So, anyways,
Yeah,
so those guys made the climb. My guy took about 70 minutes to make the climb. Now, mind you, he took more gear than they did. They were really, really light. One of those guys made the climb in about 45 minutes. So kudos to a guy, Cliff Patrick, who leads our program. He turned and burned and made it up there. So after you do the math there, he got there about 5 minutes after my lead climber did. They started really assessing what they're going to be able to do. My lead climber had taken a single victim harness, which is all we had on the truck. I had
yeah,
known there was a second victim in the basket. So that Cliff, I sent him up with one of our normal harnesses, which wasn't
yep,
wasn't ideal, but it was what it was. And so he
right,
had that. We were able to slide those harnesses over to the victims and get them in. It took a while to talk the pilot into a full blown class 3 harness, but we ended up doing
yeah,
it and getting it handled. And then he up climbed, man, just rope techs doing rope tech stuff, right? They ended up they had a single 300-foot rope and a clutch and
yeah,
an anchor strap and a couple of prussics, right? Like, there you go, there's your gear, right?
yeah,
So they ended up
yeah,
using the tail of the rope out of the backside of the bag and came up and over, climbed up about 20 foot, tied in a clutch, and vectored it down to them. And they were able to, once again, talk them into a harness, clip them in one at a time, and they were able to pull some down pressure on 'em, which kind of encouraged them and made them. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a warm and fuzzy feeling, because
no,
they had a basket underneath them, but now they're having to step out in faith and get out there outside the basket. But luckily, they had one of those straps, and man, it was smooth as silk. They got up tall enough that the vector angle was not going to be bad. The guy up top had his foot on the rope, pushing out, kind of vectoring off the tower. We had a guy, famously, Lieutenant Stephen Winchell, is outside the tower now, hanging off, with one hand out. And so we had a lot of things in play to try to, they took their helmets off and had given them their helmets. So, like,
yep.
a lot of things in play to try to get those people to the tower safely. And honestly, it went smooth as silk.
Now, to interrupt you, I remember seeing the video footage of the drone. Did the drone help you? Did it hinder you? Were you able to see what the drone was seeing? How did that play into it?
I don't. We would have got it done. I shouldn't say we wouldn't have got it done. The drone was so much more helpful than. I'm not a huge tech guy, as we can figure out after all the stuff going on this morning. But the drone was so helpful, man. I've had
Yeah,
a couple. I'm a water rescue guy on the other side of the world, and we've had opportunity to use some drones in that side of the world. Man, if you don't have a drone in your department, you need to be talking to somebody about getting through Part 107 and getting a drone in your world, because they're just so helpful. When that thing got on scene, first of all, it kind of wrecked my world, because He's flying his drone. He gets that thing up to balloon level. My guy ain't there yet. He's passing all my people, and I know a little bit about that world. And he goes, "Hey," I'm like, "Where's it at? What's the level? Can you tell me the altitude?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm at 920 foot." I'm like, "Is that above sea level or above the ground?" He's like,
Yeah,
"That's above the ground." I'm like, "Oh no!" Like I was
yeah,
expecting them to be in the 600 to 700 foot range. So quite a bit taller, and so I just knew that that was going to change some stuff for me. But yeah, it was really cool being able to use those drones because me and the IC were in the back of or they had a full size TV hooked up in the back of one of the Tahoes that showed up. The police drones were who our fire
right,
department has a drone, but it's a little drone. Both a couple of sheriff's departments from local municipalities had full big drones that were flying, and so yeah, they were able to. We were watching it on a TV screen, which was awesome and terrible at the same time because
yeah, I'm sure.
when you're in our world, like I want to be the guy clipping the carabiner. I don't want to be the dude holding the radio. It just worked out that day that I was the guy holding the radio, and
Yeah.
so like
No,
I'm
I
biting
said
my
that
fingernails.
you were where you were supposed to be. I think that's
Yeah, it worked out. But I'm just watching them like everything, and I'm just like, oh, if you'll just do this, it'll happen. Like they were sliding those helmets over, and the wind was against those helmets, so like they were having to shake the rope, and I'm like, heck with those helmets, let's get these people on the tower, and so like there was some moments like that, but when it was all shook out, like the drones were so helpful. The drones really, really, really helped us set our pitches because they could tell us almost exact altitude about how far. I know my rope lengths. I know what the guys have in their hands, so I was able to, have a 50-foot safety factor. And so, like the first pitch underneath my top was at about 750, right? Because I was able to set that about 50 foot short of 300. I knew where I needed to be. So huge shout out to the drone operators and their
yeah.
ability. Yeah, because
No,
again, we
that's
kind of talked about it offline, but we had 15 to 20 mile an hour sustained winds with gusts up to about 25. So those drones were having to hold their hover up there and do all the things in that kind of weather. So yeah.
yeah, and that's I mean that's I think the weather obviously is important. And that wind, I can only imagine what that felt like. 900 feet up, especially for the victims themselves. Let me ask you, what was you were in operations. What was the hardest call that you had to make during this operation?
Ooh, that's a good question that I have not been asking all these things, man.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
come on.
Yep. Now we got you on the hook.
I'm going to kind of deviate from that just a little bit.
Sure,
The hardest piece of this for me was
sure.
and this is going to sound crazy. When the second victim hit the ground, you would have thought we would have had humongous relief. And me and the IC have both talked about this. Both of our stress levels went through the roof at that moment because I knew I had tired guys that the mission had quote unquote been completed, but
Mm,
they're 1,000 foot off the deck, and now they've
yeah.
got a down climb. They're smoked
Yep.
mentally, physically, all the things, right? And I don't want
Yep.
something bad to happen to my guy.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely. I mean, you think it's over and it's not. And that's how was the down climb for them?
Long, right? Like long, and it was long for us. It was long for me. They're hungry. They're tired, but they're still running off of adrenaline. So had a couple of guys end up doing some cool stuff and just rappelling down on the systems that we had built. I had a one in that all call group. One of the guys is a 280-pound truck captain that ended up making it to about 600 foot. So he ended up riding a rope down. It was the best call, right? Like, let's get these guys down. Some of them started cramping. Every single one of them talked about their forearms. Like, that's what smoked.
Yeah.
That's what gets
Yeah.
smoked. Because also, we hadn't talked about it, but this tower did not have a wire. So we weren't able to
Yes.
run wire chasers. So they had to clip climb the whole thing, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah. And
smoked them.
that's hard enough as it is. I mean, the wire would have been great. How do you lead a team in an environment like this where, one mistake is catastrophic?
Yeah, so it's my job to have a good plan, right? Like, and to pick the right people to go into that plan. And we kind of talked about that right off the jump. Started backfilling. I picked my first two guys, and then started backfilling with, putting a in my mind, in your crew, or you better know, like who's your guys that are better at ropes, who's your guys that are physically fit, who's the one that's questionable. I'll be honest, like we had a guy that ended up balking on me on this call. Like he's a new rope tech. He's only been with us for a couple of months. He got the Super Bowl on the first call after his rope tech
Yeah.
class, right? The dude went through rope
Yeah.
tech class in like August, and then this is his first call, right? And he ended up balking.
Yeah.
He made a good call. He didn't become an incident within an incident. So
Yep.
super proud of the guy. We'll work through those issues on the backside. But,
Yeah.
so had some of those things happen. So getting those guys in the right places, having a good plan, understanding the plan. One thing that we got kudos on, it's hard to say some of these things, man, but like communication
Yeah.
was awesome. Like,
Which is rare.
yeah, yeah. So even dudes, we got back to the house and they had sent a company to cover our house, and the guy he's like, "Hey, man, one thing I could tell was like y'all sounded awesome on the radio," and I'm like, "Well, I'll take that as a huge kudos because like
Absolutely.
it went well." And we even had a moment where some of those guys had kind of couple of them had when it all shook off, like they didn't go in the order I thought they went in. So like I'm asking for a dude that's ended up being above another guy. We're calling them the wrong things, and we were able to reset that, right? Like one of the lieutenants that ended up being in that group that I was talking about, he was like, "Hey, nobody knows what's going on." Like, cool, timeout. All right, let's relabel this. Hey, and we know each other by name, right? Like so. Pointer, you're at the top, you're group one. The next guy below you is one of my other drivers, Woody, you're group two, and all the way down to what ended up being 6 pitches, like group one, group two. Clean that up. After that, we really didn't have an issue. So communication went really well. If you don't have good comms, and then like logistics behind the scene, like I told you, I had an ordinary ops captain, and I say that parentheses, like I love my guys that want to go out and do those kinds of things, right? Like they support us, and a lot of days when I go and say, "Hey, we're gonna go to the lake and run boats," like they're gonna come backfill me. Like so I have
Yep.
a huge appreciation for those guys. In banter we're gonna call them ordinary ops, but like, I really do. And I had one of those guys on the ground that nailed logistics. He was constantly in my ear, like, "Hey Lou, I got this, I got this, I got this." I'm like, "Great, hadn't even thought about that. That's awesome. Let's move on."
Yeah.
Right.
That is awesome.
So
And
having those pieces on the ground, you got to have all of those things. So getting those things lined up. Again, like I wasn't the overall IC, I was ops command, but from a special operations side, like this is our call. Like I got an IC, but like this, he's over there to talk to the media, talk to the other chiefs, do all the things. Like this is my call today, and that's how it should be run, in my opinion.
absolutely. And you guys had and that's exactly what I was going to get into is the importance of, your team. How important is it to trust your team in this situation when you're sending them up and you can't be right there with them?
Totally agree, man. Like I said, rope techs being rope techs. Like in training, I've kind of barked at some guys that are new. Like I know, for instance, we had a confined space class. Well, they had just had rope tech class, and one of the guys asked the mock IC, like, "How do you want me to do this?" No, you're a rope tech, dude. Go do your. He gave you an assignment. He said, "Go rig for a lift." Like, go rig for a lift. Don't ask him what you need. Like, and that's how you got to be, right? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
fixing to micromanage my guy at 900 foot. In the beauty, I didn't know this was going to play out, but I actually got to watch him, But normally, like,
Yeah.
no different than I see outside of fire. Like, he doesn't get to see me open up a nozzle, Like,
Right.
I got to trust those guys to do their job. All of this, and we'll get into this, but like, these rescues happen on the drill field, not right there. You gotta have a trust in
Yeah.
them that they're gonna go do special ops things, right? They're gonna go do road tech things, and you gotta just be down there and be like, "Hey, man, you're the rapid ascent guy today. Take what you think you need." Like I'm not gonna. I have an idea what you need. I've been that guy before, but I'm not that guy today. Like you may want a little bit different package than me.
Yeah, and I think that is, and we did briefly discuss it before about building out a team, a special ops team where you don't have to be the guy that micromanages because everyone knows their place and knows what they're going to do in that call. And that when that scene ended, and I specifically remember, and this is what made me contact you guys, is I remember, and maybe it was one of the drivers, whatnot, but they were interviewing him and he said, this was obviously a great operation. He's like, but I really wanted to thank our training chief for backing our special ops program and, seeing it through and help. And I like that caught me off guard. And I remember like stopping and doing a double look and being like, wow, what a culture that must be, that trains special ops, builds that special ops culture to where you can go attack something like this. And obviously I've heard the term Super Bowl of tech rescues, and it absolutely is, but like that doesn't just happen. So like, this is where I wanted to get to with you guys is what about Longview built that culture? And now that we got all the other stuff out of the way, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you ended up here.
Yeah, man. So I'm a legacy firefighter, if you will. My dad did 34 years, ended up a ladder captain in a town just to our the other major town close to us, about 45 minutes from Longview. Me and my brother got hired on the same day. We both did the college thing, thought we were going to go do different things. And man, just I got slapped in the face, just called by God to come do this thing, man. And
Yeah.
kept trying, and it just wasn't working out. Finally, it worked out one day where my little brother gets hired on the same day, so it all can't. I finally figured out why I'd been struggling for so long, right? And so
Yeah.
got hired with Longview Fire Department. Would have told you the day I got hired that I'll take the first test I can to get to the place where my dad worked.
Yeah.
But while I was there, I had the opportunity to be an apprentice. Our brand new guys that aren't quite paramedics yet. So I was in paramedic school, and I rode at Station 2, which was our special operations house at the time, and just got to be engulfed in that culture, right? And like the dudes, even it bled over to just a riding an ambulance call or going to a lift assist for the third time at one of the independent living facilities that are in our district, right? Like it bled
Right.
over, and you saw that from those guys, and I was like, that's what I want to be like. And also the other department that I'm talking about, they didn't do any special operations. That wasn't their wheelhouse. They did traditional firefighting, didn't do EMS hardly at all, other than a little bit here and there. And so I was like, hey, like I want to. That's what I want to hang my career on. Like I want to be a special operations cat. So, like I said, had the opportunity to ride out of that house most of my apprentice career. Was able to slide right into there to a spot and be, the tailboard ambulance firefighter at the time, and just kind of came up in that culture. Did about 10 years at that station. Made driver while I was there. Had the opportunity to slide to our south and drive a ladder truck for a couple of years that kind of had the special operations tab on it. And then I made lieutenant, and I was really happy where I was because I was on the south side fighting fire. I was going to ride an engine first due on a lot of stuff, and they picked me up, and they had just opened the house that I'm at now as a new special operations house. So we kind of do ropes and boats on one side of town, and then like the other technical rescue, hazmat, structural collapse on the other side of town. And I'd come up under all that, so I kind of keep keep feet in both worlds. But the opening was on the other side of town, and they at the time the chief decided that that's where I needed to be, and I didn't have a whole lot of option in that, and I wasn't really happy about it at the moment. But
Yeah.
man,
I mean,
the
it paid
blessing that
off.
yeah, the blessing that it turned out to be. A crew that always kind of referred to them. I don't know if it we called them the West Side retards over there because we were on the East Side. So like I was
Yeah,
getting put
that's
to
fair.
yeah, I was getting put to that house where we were always kind of in competition with a little bit, and so I wasn't really excited about it. But there we were. I got put there, and man, I couldn't be more happy. But just because I mean, divinely inspired, like what has transpired since, and this rescue obviously highlights that, but just 1,000 other things that have gone right while I'm there. Just good stuff,
Of
being
course.
able to train. Yeah. So
No, and it,
go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry. So I was going to say, just going back to that, you guys have obviously built a special ops culture. What does the training look like day to day that lets you build on that?
Yeah, so I was asked while I was kind of contemplating putting in for taking the test for a lieutenant. In fact, the guy that ended up being the IC on this call, he was my battalion at the time, and he's like, "Why do you want to be a lieutenant? And if you become a lieutenant, like, what's your day look like?" And he's like, "What's your non-negotiables?" I had to think on that for a little while, and this is what I came up with, and I'll live on this, I guess, until I retire. But we're gonna train, we're gonna do PT, and we're gonna have some family time, and whatever that looks like, right? Like we're gonna watch a movie together, we're gonna sit out in the bay and smoke a cigar, we're gonna play some pool, we got a pool table at the house, whatever that looks
Yeah.
like, right? But those three things are pretty non-negotiable for me in a day. We went to the 4896 model, so it changes it just a little bit. Those things at least happen inside of the tour now, but like most days, we're gonna drill on something, right? Like we're gonna either and for me, there's a difference between training and drilling. So we're
What do
gonna
you mean? What do you mean by that? What do you
yeah,
mean by
so
training? The
for me,
difference?
training is slow, right? Like it can be a crawl or a walk. So we can be showing a new guy to the house, or even just an apprentice, like, hey, this is how we do X, Y, and Z. Slow it down, really break through it, and then occasionally I go out there and I tell them, hey, I'm the dumb new guy apprentice. I'm a rope tech, but kind of barely. And I'll pick one of my drivers or maybe even my firefighter, like, you're running it, and here we go. It's a drill, and it's for time, like so we you got to have some realness to that too. Like, and it'll be something that I picked out, and maybe I go put a victim somewhere in a hole somewhere, and we go do a confined space drill that they don't know about, and I walk out there at 8 a.m. and like, hey, this is what we got. Here we go.
Yeah.
Y'all are running it.
Yeah.
I'm the dumb guy on the tailboard, and there's a lot of smart dudes on the tailboard, but today I'm the dumb guy on the tailboard, right? So like, you tell me what to do and I'll do it, but pretty much I'm out of play, and so you're running it because there's a lot of days where we're not there, man. It's like I got to have
Yeah.
vacation days too. So if this call happened when I wasn't there, it's got to continue to happen. So
And I think that's probably one of the most important parts of building a special ops team is just because someone goes on vacation, that program cannot collapse. The team can't not function. And you obviously you'd hate to have missed that. But I think knowing that your crew was up to the task of handling it is just as important and makes you just as proud.
yeah, I mean it gives you the warm and fuzzy, and you got, like I said, we're entitled to vacation days too. Like I take the whole month of July off. My wife's a school teacher. We're usually gone in Colorado. Like there's a big time where I'm gone. Like Kerrville is a huge thing in Texas. I don't know if it made it all the way up to y'all, but big massive floods. This last summer, like I turned that deployment down. I'm a Swiftwater guy, but I had an effect on those guys because I trained several of the guys that were in those boats that made those rescues down there, So that's my little piece, Like I missed that call. I hated to miss that call, but I didn't really expect a flood in Texas in July, but that happened. So
No, I mean obviously that's a whole other
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, sure.
But yeah, no, and that's exactly. But I think that's important that you say that you helped train these guys. You were there. I mean, your skill sets were passed on to them, and that's something to be proud of. And that's a huge part of training, mentorship, and special ops, which is really important because that's how you get younger people into it and newer people into it, showing them the ropes,
Yeah,
quite literally.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great segue to kind of talk about that chief that you're talking about. So
yeah,
I'm going to call him by name, Chief Dankers, Chief Steve Dankers. He's kind of a hero to all of us locally. He kind of started our ropes program in the early 2000s. He had kind of come from a climbing background, came in and kind of really brought our rope program to a whole nother level and has slowly progressed through the ranks. Back then he was a firefighter and last year he's been our spec ops chief for about a year, but it's cool, man, because he promoted out of the house that that most of this came from, right? It ended up being Station 2 and 5 for the most part, but he was the ladder captain at Station 5 for about 5 or 6 years there, and then promoted to our special operations chief / training chief. And so, yeah, like that culture has just been built over, honestly, 20 years now. And so like these, like, we've kind of talked offline, like these calls don't happen. Like the success of a call like that doesn't happen on the day, like we had the opportunity to get highlighted because of the drone footage and, it was at such a hype and it got picked up by so many news outlets, but like, we just got to show off, right? Like, but we just showed off the training that happens on a normal day. We have a 4-story tower at our station, or we're constantly hanging off a rope, or we have ropes.
yeah. And there's no cameras there watching that, but that's an everyday thing.
Absolutely not. Yeah, or we're doing hanging on a rope just in the bay because it happens to be cold or hot in Texas, right? Well, we got ropes hanging in the bay where we'll just do an ascent and a rappel or convert, whatever we're gonna do, and just right there in the bay, And yeah, there's no cameras for that, and there honestly, those days are hard because we've got so many things going on. Like, well, are we really going to go spend an hour of our time to go do that? Like, yeah, we are. We're going to go do that, And like, I know y'all all know how to do that. Or it's really nice when you got a new guy and we have a reason to go show him. But like one of the other shifts, like their guys are all squared away, been rope techs for a long time, didn't have a lot of new guys on the crew. Like they got to go get a rep, Like you can easily
even
lose
more
all
so.
these things.
Yeah. Oh, it's so perishable, and that's why you have to continually train, and that's why it showed up the way it did. Obviously, your incident, but in building out any special ops program, I think I like the term you said, the dark times.
Yeah.
What were the biggest challenges into getting your program to where it is now?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, money and buy-in are the two big things, right? To me, from above you, like you got to have buy-in from above you and buy-in from the guys. And when it's not bought in by above you, it gets tough, right? Like I'll say for a long time, early on, our program, best of my understanding, started in about '98, and then it's kind of progressed. We had several guys get on our Texas Task Force One, really built the program. unfortunately 9/11 happened and there ended up being a lot of money flying around, right? Hazmat was kind of the lead, all that, but it kind of came into all the rescue disciplines. And so our program really came into into its probably the most highlighted spot in those early to mid to 2000s, right? There was a lot of money. Those guys were able to just randomly go out of service and train and do all kinds of things, come off duty and train, get overtime, all the things, right? And then,
Yeah.
2008 happens, the money starts drying up. I came
Yep.
on in about 11. And yeah, it was the guys that had come through those really nice times were still there, but they were starting to see the decline and they were trying to hang on. Some of us new guys, like we saw what that was, and we're like, oh, this isn't gonna be that hard. We can build this, but because we didn't have the funding and we didn't have the as good a support from the top, it got difficult, right? And yeah, I called it the dark times, right? Like we had a decade there that I mean, we'd beg, borrow, and steal to go out of service for a couple of hours, to make some training happen while we were on duty.
Can I just stop you right there and ask about your thoughts on the importance of going out of service for training on the rescue side?
Yeah, so
Because some people balk at it, and I'm a firm believer you have to do it. I hate to do it. You have to do it.
you have to do it, especially in our culture. I'll speak specifically to it. Like we have an ambulance that sits beside all of our rigs, basically, right? I need those guys right over on my other rigs. We rotate through, right? They're not just the paramedics; they're firefighter, paramedic slash rescue men, right? I've got my young guys typically be over there, are over there. I need them in training, right? Not only do I have to take I got to take the whole company out of service, which is really hard to sell. And I get that because now I got an ambulance out of service. I need backfill. I mean, best case scenario is to hire some overtime and come ride my rigs for a few hours, right? Like that's best case scenario, but that's a big ask, right? So
It's a big ask.
if we don't go out of service and train, we don't make it happen. You cannot be suspended from a rope doing or on a dive off, let's say for us, or underground somewhere on a confined space op, or got a trench dug and say, "Oh well, Granny needs to be picked up down the road." Granny does need to be picked up down the road,
She does.
100%, right? But for 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever you can buy, somebody else is going to have to run that call for a little while. And I'll stand by that until I die because on the day where you got a balloon that's hanging 900 foot off the ground, you want some cats that can handle that too, right? So
Yeah,
it's a
and
trade-off.
all that overtime money is going to go away real quick, or that worry about that when that goes off so well.
Yeah, and so like, and I get it. It's hard, and I don't ever have the inclination to wear a white helmet. Honestly, like I think I'll top out as a truck captain and be done. I want to stay in ops, but who knows? But I don't have to make those decisions. But I need to to be able to communicate. And luckily, like my captain, who was at that original station that I was way back years ago, is now our assistant chief of operations. We hired a new chief this last year who came from the rescue world. He was outside the department, but he's been a spec ops guy his whole life. We got a great special operations. We're living in some good days right now. We're past those dark days. And like I heard the other day, like they were talking about doing some training. Like, how do you want us to do that? And like, hire overtime, send the guys to training. Like, dude, okay, that's
Yeah,
best case scenario, right? We support the city,
yeah,
we don't affect it, and we got guys trained. But if we're not getting training in these disciplines, you will not. I mean, we can do some little stuff at the station, right? Like where we
of
don't go
course.
full on out of service, But there's some times where we gotta, put harnesses on, we gotta put dive gear on, we gotta go get in a boat and get,
Yep.
down the river where we can't go make our med calls or even, whatever, gas out in an area, like we can't make those calls at the moment. So yeah, you got it. To me, it has to be a priority to get training to those guys. And I get it for once again, the ordinary ops guys, it becomes a frustration. We try to be reciprocal, like, hey man, we'll come cover you whenever you want to go out of service, man. Because an
Yeah.
engine
Do
company,
they ever go out of service?
they do from time to time, but not nearly as much as they probably should, right? And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like I will come cover you so you
Of
can go
course.
drag some hose because there's a day and time the way ours works right now that I'm likely to get shipped out to an engine company for a short time. Like, guess what? My company is going to go out of service to drag some hose and climb some stairs, right? That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
an engine company needs to be good at three things. We need to be good at searching, we need to be good at dragging hose, and we need to be good at forcing doors. We're going to go out of service to do those things, right?
Yeah. Amen. No, absolutely. Amen. At the balloon incident itself, but any other special tech rescue stuff you've been involved in, what should departments take away from seeing your story play out that day?
Yeah, I mean, we've had- you know kind of go back, we've had two ginormous events for us in the last little less than a year. Kerrville was huge, obviously. This balloon rescue was huge. And we've had several other little smaller incidents throughout the year, that truly highlight the need for special operations. If I hope and pray that the story is that like we have to support special operations. Obviously, this is a rescue podcast. We're talking about all things special operations. We know we have a commitment to the rest of the city for all the other things, right? But if you don't support the things that are low frequency, high danger, like we won't get it done. And we've seen that on the other side years ago. Like we had a tower rescue that came in as a guy on a tower with a medical emergency that we ended up bringing down a DB, right? That took way too long. That's where our tower class came from, right? Like
Yeah.
and that's not a good day, right? Like, that one didn't make podcast.
No.
Podcasts weren't a thing yet, but it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I think you're good. Yeah. I think it's important though that you bring that up because that's what happens when you don't train. You know what I mean? That's the outcome. It's
Yep.
unfortunate.
Yeah. 100%, man.
No. And so at the end of the day, if you had to sum this lesson up for the fire service, from your rescue, what is it? Even if it's on the rescue, yep.
Yeah,
Nailed
man.
it.
I mean, it's easy. I mean, it's easy and hard all at the same time, right? Like we all know we have those days. Like I said, we work 4896, right? The company officer has to come in with some kind of plan for training, right? That it has to be on your mind. I get paid extra money for my days off to think about something. It ain't got to be huge, right? It, you know, I, years ago while I was a driver, I'd kind of worked up a little program like making the grab Mondays, tactical Tuesdays, wet Wednesdays, forcible Fridays, right? Like throwing
Yeah.
Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
And then special operations has always kind of been a weekend thing for us, right? If you don't have something that you're coming to work with as the company officer, you're doing it wrong. And I'll caveat with that. I take a lot of pride in my senior driver, right? My senior man, if you will. I can put that on him some days. And I can put
Yeah.
it on anybody else on the crew, right? They all need to grow. I'm at a point in my house right now. We just did 2 hard years of training when I got there, right? Like I put a lot into those guys mainly because I didn't know where they were. So I'm going to make sure I know where they are and get them trained up to what I know. I'm going to give them everything I got. And I'm pretty well there. There's always something new to learn. I'm not saying that. But most of my guys have at least been through my little reps on forcing a door, throwing a ladder, whatever it is, special operations, all the things. So now their thing is like what I'm pushing, especially on one of my senior drivers who doesn't love it, right? Like you got to teach. You
Yeah.
got to teach because it makes you dig in so much deeper. And I was the same guy, right? Like I've been the terrible attituded medic driver who like, yeah, dude, yeah, I know how to throw a ladder. Like, well, yeah, I could get it on a building, but I didn't do it professionally, right? Like I didn't know what I didn't know. Like all I knew was like, yeah, man, I can do that. I can do that. Like, no, like you need to go catch a rep. Right.
Yeah.
So from time to time, I mean, we're a ladder company as well at my house. Like we go throw a ladder from time to time,
God
on a
forbid.
pretty
God forbid,
on a
right?
on a pretty regular basis. We pull and throw a 35, like
Yeah.
we're gonna throw a ladder.
Yeah.
We drag hose, but then again, at my house, we've got cool things to also take care of, which becomes, like where I'm in Chat GBT trying to plan out a freaking year's worth of training. Like
Yeah.
we got to hit all these disciplines and be good at them. And like I only have so much time in the day, and there's things too. Like on Sundays, my guys have the day off, no questions asked. Like
Yeah.
outside of anything that the Chiefs got planned, like we don't do anything. We don't
Yeah.
drill on Sundays. Period.
No,
It's
I
y'all's
agree.
day. We chill
I
out, right?
I agree. I think maybe that's just a cultural thing for us, and I agree with it because the guys do deserve a break. But I tell them on a Saturday we're going out,
Thousand
and
percent.
yeah, we're going out,
1,000%. So
and
yeah, man, coming full circle, you got to train. You got to have guys that are into it. If you don't have those guys, you need to get rid of those guys that aren't those guys. You know what I mean? And that could be tough because sometimes we love those guys. I'll be real honest. My little brother works at my house on a different shift. He's not the guy. And he'll tell you he's not the guy. And he's actively looking for a different place to go. He kind of came up in this house. They morphed it into a special operations house. That's not his world, right? Like
yeah,
he's an
that's
ordinary
not
ops guy.
everybody's.
Yeah, and it's not for everybody. And I mean, special operations guys, like I mean, in the last week I've done a couple of dives outside of work, like I've got a guy that dives all the time. Like you have to I spent a week in Tennessee teaching guys how to drive a swiftwater boat, you know? Like, if you're not willing to go do those things off duty, like, you're probably not the guy for that house, right? So you gotta really be we talk about culture. I had the opportunity to step into this house right as it was becoming a special operations place. It's been so cool because we got to build a special operations culture at this particular house from the
Yeah.
ground up, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
it's been so, so cool.
Yeah.
A lot of it was there, right? It was just ready to be harnessed, and, just to be a part of it has been really, really cool, and but there again, yeah, you gotta I mean, what's the 3 legs, right? We gotta have special people, special equipment, special training. The first one of that is special people, right? I gotta have the guys that wanna get out there. 23rd of December, we're cooking. It's our only day on where we're not working Christmas this year. And so, like, the guys had the day off. Like, I looked up, 3 or 4 of them are hanging from a rope in the bay, you know? Like,
Yeah.
that's what you want. That's the guys you
Yeah,
need,
no,
right?
that's exactly it, and I mean, it's cool to see that actually play out, especially on the leadership side too. It's hard. I'm the captain on our rescue here, and it's been a long road, but it's great to see other groups start to take the training seriously and do the stuff that we're doing. And there's a value in that from a leadership side that makes you feel good and actually like, hey, we're actually gaining ground here, and that's important. That's very important.
Absolutely. Yeah, from our side of it, right? Like, there's a piece to it. We all know that leadership can be lonely, right? Sometimes probably should be, but at the same time, we could take those wins, right? Like the
But
dude's
yeah,
dangling from a rope without, or they come to me like, hey, LT, I got this plan. Like, can we do this? Or hey, can we do that? Like, man,
yeah,
that's the juice, right? Like, that's
yeah.
what gets you fired up. And
I'll
if
never
it's not
say
like
you can't say no to that.
no, like, you could be exhausted, right? Like, there's days where I come in, like, I'm not ready to do I got a plan or whatever, and they got a better plan, right? Like, the stuff that we talked about all those days that I kinda got that's my fallback. Somebody comes in with something cool we wanna go do, heck yeah, man, let's go knock that out, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta drag the old cat out, you know, but that's alright.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, so as we wrap up, I just have a couple quick questions to throw at you. Back to the balloon call. What was the biggest shit moment during that call?
For me, it was putting my feet on the ground and realizing the gravity of it, like the height, the insecurity of the balloon, like just the whole thing of like, we had a guy that taught most of my class ended up being our assistant chief, and he used to say, "You got 5 seconds to go, oof," on a med call or whatever it is, right? Like you
Yeah,
got 5 seconds, and then you got to re-engage, right? And so I had that time as I was walking up there, I had a little extra time, but I'm spinning things. But yeah, man, just the height of it. We had never been nobody on the call had any. A couple of those guys that I talked about had probably been to about 600 on a tower, but that's as high as anybody had ever been. So yeah, just the height of it. I had no idea. Thankfully, like there was people across the city that could see this thing.
yeah.
People are looking like there was a gas station apparently, 2 of the dudes that were at the top, because they came from their house, their families were intimately aware of what they were going to do. They had their kids loaded up, their wives had their kids loaded up, they're sitting at a gas station a half mile watching it.
No
Like,
way.
yeah, they ended up having one of the guys had like got on his phone and, like, had a little video chat with his wife while they're waiting to do something else in transition, and he's like, "Yeah, waving at y'all," and,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I mean, so I had no idea that all that was going on, thankfully, from my position, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
it got played out in a real visual way, but yeah, just the overall the hugeness of the whole thing, man.
Yeah.
It was a big day.
What decision kept you up at night after the call, or what part of the situation kept you up at night?
Yeah, so I kinda slowly came down, like I told you, that moment where we both got 'em that we got both the victims on the ground. I don't know why, but it disturbed me. We had a really cool moment. I got to be right at the base of the tower as those guys were coming off the tower individually. Slap them on the butt, give them a hug. Hey, go get you a Chick-fil-A sandwich. Like, get fed up, man. And that they weren't there. And then once I got my last guy on the ground, like I had my own little moment, right? Like it was finally the moment we've probably all been there, just like, okay, a little peace, but at the same time, like all those emotions start coming down on you and like the gravity of everything that just happened. And as far as keeping me up, man, it went so well, but I just can't ever stop thinking about what we could have done better. Right? Like what would have made it a little faster and what could have made it a little safer and what equipment, I got all the guys now, like equipment and all that. But for me, it's like, hey, what could we have done better from my point to make y'all's lives better? Like, could I have got the guys fed on a tower, like and some of that's the logistics prior to the call that we have to be good officers and some of the things that we need to think about, Yeah, I need a box of Nalgene bottles that I can put 3 bottles of water in and clip a carabiner to a guy, like, I need
Yeah.
that. So, some
Yeah.
of those things, but, I mean, ultimately, like, those are the pieces. Obviously, we this could have played out a whole lot different, and I don't know that any of us could have been able to talk about it, but luckily it
Yeah.
went the way it did.
No, it's understood. What part of this rescue do you think most departments are not ready for?
Several things. I don't think most and we've had some conversations with several departments that have called in asking questions. And some of the questions that they ask, like I'm kind of armchair quarterbacking a little bit, but like kind of starting off on the wrong foot, like talking about is it a ground based operation or like if and so like you have to get out there and play and train and all the things that we talked about. So like if you haven't been on a tower or done something similar, like I said, at 200 foot is the highest any of us have ever trained. It's just replicated down at that point, right? So if you don't have a good plan, and I don't know, where we completely got it, but where I'll steal it from is my goodness, I'm gonna miss his name right now. I'm looking at him, but
Yeah.
goodness. Anyways, one of the chiefs talks about having a game plan, right? And talking about the aircraft pilots, they have a checklist, right? And like, there's nothing wrong with having a plan A, and I tell my guys that all the time, right? Whether it's stretching a line, forcing a door, throwing a ladder, have a plan A, but also be very aware of plan B, C, and D when plan A doesn't work, right? But I know what I'm gonna do if everything works out, right? This call was no different. Like, we knew exactly what we were gonna do. So if you don't even have a plan A in your fire department, you need to go out there and figure it out because these things are gonna happen. Like, there's cell phone towers everywhere. There's high places everywhere. The other piece is, like you said, I don't, seeing people around, the fire service is getting fitter, but you see dudes that aren't fit. So once again, if you don't have the fitness level, I mean, knowledge and fitness, like, those are the 2 big things that would
They
probably keep a lot of fire.
they go a long way. What are most departments getting wrong about technical rescue right now?
Man, I feel like this is probably a broken record here, but, like, probably not training, Like, they think they have the capability, right? Because they got the gear on the truck, but when's the last time they drug the gear off the truck? You know what I mean? When's the last time I mean, alright, weird stuff, right? Trench rescue. When's the last time you went and dug a hole, right?
Yeah.
Or put your panels up in between the rig and the wall in the station and played the best you could, right? Or when's the last time you've been on a rope? If you do water stuff, when's the last time you've been in the water? And once again, I get it. It's a frustrating thing in the world. The fire service is scrutinized every day for the way we spend money, and sometimes rightfully so. But if you're not advocating for that training and at least fighting for it and being creative, right? As a lieutenant, a lot of times I'll be pretty creative with the way I can get my guys some time off and go, like whether I got a Rochambeau or buy some ice cream or whatever it is,
Yeah.
like, hey, I need your ambulance to come cover my ambulance for a little while, like that. That's that's part of the deal.
Yeah, and I think, and we talked about your team and obviously what they pulled off and how that culture sort of built to that pivotal moment, and they proved themselves. But what did you learn about yourself on that call?
Yeah, for me, that I don't get to I'm getting really close to the end of being the guy that clips the carabiner, and that's tough. That's tough, man. But that's I say this all the time. Like, I took the test, right? Like I decided to go make the rank and do the thing. So it's my job to teach the guy to clip the carabiner now. Like, ordinarily I got a captain at my station that he'd be the guy, but hopefully someday I'll get to be that captain. And at that point it really gets limited, right? Like, we've been doing a lot of dive stuff because we're pretending it's a winter dive here, right? Like here in March in Texas, right? The water's still cool. And so like I'm not the guy that's gonna do the dive very often, right? I'm gonna be topside and playing in the dive and do the things. I'm getting really close. I love running a swiftwater boat. I'm getting close to not being the dude in the swiftwater boat. I'm the dude on the shore holding the radio, like
Yeah.
that's tough, man.
Yep.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I remember doing it to the captain that I was talking about is now our assistant chief of operations. We had a dog in a hole one night, like in a manhole, and he starts stripping off his gear. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm
Yeah.
about to get in this hole." I'm like, "No, you're not. Like,
Yeah.
you go hold the radio over there. This is mine." And I'm at that point in my career, and so
Yep.
it's tough. I mean, can I still do it? Absolutely, right? Am I still gonna do it? Yeah, well, anytime I get a chance, you know?
Of
I
course.
got a rookie that comes off the rig slow, I'm about to put that fire out, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have your air pack on when we come off the rig, like, you're about to sit in the front yard, dude.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, learning that I have to get better at the other piece of my job, you know, like, and fully embracing it. The guy that was my IC that day has kinda become a mentor of mine as a he's our we're the same age, but he's been a chief for quite some time now. And so like I don't ever understand like why he wants to stand out in the front yard and be the IC on a fire.
Yeah.
But, like, we have to embrace that piece, right? Because it makes the things happen, right?
Yes.
Not that me squaring away all the things on the ground is gonna let them clip a carabiner better, we gotta work on that in training, but being able to, you know, square up communications on the ground, being able to get them what they need, knowing how to get them what they need, all the things. That's my job now, making sure that it's as safe as it possibly can be, you know, making sure we talk just real briefly that, hey, we had a lot of what they call RF, like, on that tower that
Yeah.
apparently stays hot for 30 minutes after you turn the stuff off, right? So,
Okay.
like, I'm getting some of those reports and, like, learning some of this stuff on the fly, you know, and, like, well, I kinda gotta get guys in the vicinity of that balloon. I really like, I don't wanna get them burned up, but at the same time, like, what's how bad is bad, right? Like, are they gonna, you know, are they gonna die? Are they gonna, you know, have some minor little things that may bother them for a couple of days? Like, so learning some of those things right off the fly, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that speaks to you can be prepared, but then there's things that are just going to pop up that you're not ready for, and you try and cover your bases the best you can, and work with the information you have on the ground. Well, hey, I greatly appreciate you coming on and talking to me twice.
Yeah,
But no, I mean, this is why I love doing this stuff, because it's great to connect with other people that are in the same world, and we're speaking the same language. And I walk away from today richer in the fact that you motivate me to go back and continue to do what I try and do it at the station, and whoever else is listening. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for those lessons, and the patch is on the way. So
of course, same thing today. Yeah, I'll get
stay
it in the
tuned for
mail.
that.
But
But
it's
thank you, Logan. Thank you.
thank you guys for these kind of things. Like, it's reciprocal, right? Like, I gotta go be the guy that I said I was right here, right? And so, if I'm not that guy, I'm just talking to, you know, trying to get my face out there and all that. Like, so I gotta go back to the station and have a plan, be ready to go train and do the things, right? So
That's
it's
right.
reciprocal. Thank you.
No, absolutely, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.